What if I told you that while you go about your daily routine, driving to work, answering messages, making plans, something vast and unstoppable is already in motion all around you? What if the greatest turning point of your life is unfolding right now, and you don't even see it? The truth about life is that it is never as simple as it appears on the surface. We walk through familiar streets, sit in ordinary rooms, exchange casual words, and carry out the same patterns we have carried for years. Yet if we could lift the veil even for a moment, we would see that every gesture, every conversation, every quiet choice is taking place inside a much larger story. The hum of our daily existence is like the surface of a river. It seems calm, predictable, and self-contained, but just beneath is a current strong enough to carry entire destinies. This larger reality is not fiction. It is the true world, the one in which our smaller stories are only chapters, sometimes brief and sometimes enduring. Many have the sense, even if they cannot name it, that there is more going on than meets the eye. It appears in those fleeting moments when the air feels charged with meaning, when something about the ordinary feels strange, as though the room has tilted ever so slightly toward eternity. It is there when an unexpected word pierces the heart, or when a small decision later reveals itself to have been the turning point for years to come. We may brush such moments aside, telling ourselves they are coincidences, but deep within, the soul knows better. They are the faint vibrations of a greater plan, moving just beyond the edges of what we can see. Every human life is surrounded by this invisible narrative. We are not simply waking, working, eating, and sleeping. We are being shaped, tested, and called in ways that reach far beyond what our schedules reveal. Just as a single note in a symphony makes no sense without the music around it, a single day in our life can only be understood in light of the whole score. Yet the difficulty is that we live inside the note. We do not always hear the orchestra. We have to choose to listen for it, to sense the weight of the unseen measures before and after our present moment. This unseen story is not only grand in scale, it is also deeply personal. It threads through the details of your own life, your upbringing, your heartbreaks, your joys, the people who have crossed your path for reasons you still don't fully grasp. None of these things float aimlessly in space. Each has been allowed, placed, or woven for a reason. You may think of a conversation you had years ago that seemed to mean little at the time, but planted a seed that is only now beginning to grow. Or a disappointment that once felt like loss, but was, in truth, the quiet rearranging of the stage for a better scene yet to come. This hidden narrative has always been unfolding long before we were aware of it. Our own lives began in the middle of the story, not at its start. The world around us carries centuries of cause and effect, victories and failures, choices made by countless others whose ripples still touch today. We inherit not just blood and name, but the momentum of a story that began before we could speak. This is why nothing in our lives is truly isolated. What happens in one corner of the narrative affects the whole, just as the movements of the smallest cog can change the course of an entire machine. The tragedy for many is that they mistake the set for the whole world. They see the painted backdrop and believe it is the landscape, never realizing that just beyond the wooden panels lies the true horizon. We become preoccupied with props, comforts, routines, possessions, and forget that they are only tools, not the purpose of the play. The danger in this is not merely distraction. It is that we may miss the very moment for which we were placed on this stage. The great scenes do not always announce themselves with trumpets. Often they arrive quietly, disguised as interruptions or inconveniences, and pass us by if we are too entangled in the small illusions of the set. If one is to truly grasp that something larger is at work, it requires a shift in perception, a willingness to believe that the unseen is more real than the visible. It means looking at the events of your life, both the joyous and the painful, and asking, what part might this play in the greater story? It means resisting the temptation to reduce life to mere survival or personal satisfaction, and instead beginning to live as though every action, however small, carries eternal weight. This is not easy. It demands a deliberate slowing down, a questioning of the surface, a listening for the echoes of the deeper current. But those who do begin to see, even dimly, will never again be content to believe that the ordinary is all there is. They will begin to sense that something vast and alive is unfolding around them, and that they themselves are a vital character in it. There are moments in life when the world seems to speak, not with words, but through signs that press upon the soul. These signs are not limited to grand events. They can be as subtle as the way light breaks through the clouds on a day when hope feels distant, or as unmistakable as a sudden turn in circumstances that forces a change you did not plan. For those who are awake, life is full of these messages. They are woven into conversations, encounters, seasons, and even the quiet rhythm of nature. But for those who live with their eyes closed, these same moments pass unnoticed, dismissed as mere chance. The difference lies not in the events themselves, but in the awareness of the one experiencing them. Every day carries its own hints of a greater reality trying to get your attention. You might overhear a sentence from a stranger that answers a question you've been quietly wrestling with for weeks. You might find that the path you were determined to walk suddenly closes, forcing you to take another, only later realizing that the detour spared you from harm. Sometimes, even the restlessness in your own heart is a sign, a whisper urging you to move before complacency chains you to a place you were never meant to remain. These are not accidents. They are invitations to notice that the world is far more alive and purposeful than we assume. Nature itself often carries these signs. The turning of the seasons mirrors the cycles of human life. Times of growth, of harvest, of loss, and of renewal. A tree stripped bare in winter stands as a silent reminder that certain endings are necessary for new beginnings. A seed hidden in darkness before it sprouts teaches that unseen growth can be most important kind. The created world is a constant sermon, speaking without words, for those willing to hear its quiet truths, yet most walk past these living metaphors without a second thought, because their attention is fixed on smaller, louder distractions. Life also sends its signs through people. Some individuals appear in our lives briefly, but leave an imprint. that shapes our path for years to come. Others remain for longer seasons, guiding us, challenging us, or even wounding us in ways that force us toward change. Sometimes a person's role in your life is clear, and sometimes it is only in hindsight that you understand why they were there. A conversation you didn't plan to have, a meeting that seemed accidental, or even an argument that unsettled you. All of these can be signs, depending on how you receive them. The challenge is that the world rarely announces, "This moment matters." The responsibility falls on us to pay attention. There is a kind of spiritual sleep that keeps people from seeing these signs. When we are consumed with the noise of routine, entertainment, or self-interest, we become blind to the very things that could wake us up. We are like travelers in a foreign land who do not recognize the signs pointing toward our destination, wandering aimlessly while the directions are written plainly in front of us. The signs do not fail. It is our perception that fails. The evidence of a larger reality is not hidden in the sense of being inaccessible. It is hidden in plain sight, available to all, but noticed only by the watchful. Even hardships can be signs. A closed door can be as much a message as an open one. Pain itself can awaken the heart in ways comfort never will. The loss of something we thought we needed may reveal that it was holding us back from something greater. In this way, the signs are not always pleasant. They can disrupt, unsettle, and challenge us. Yet, when understood, they are still gifts. Gifts meant to guide us toward a path we might not choose on our own. The problem is that signs do not linger forever. Opportunities pass. Moments fade. The same sunrise that might stir you to hope today will vanish into memory if you do not pause to see it. A message that could have altered your course will be forgotten if you are too distracted to hear it. This is why awareness is essential. To be awake to the signs is to live in a state of readiness, to believe that life is not random, and to trust that there is intention behind even the smallest detail. Those who choose to live with this awareness begin to notice patterns, connections, and meanings that others miss entirely. They realize that the world is speaking and has been speaking all along. It was only waiting for them to open their eyes. Complacency is a quiet enemy. It does not arrive with warning signs or loud alarms. It slips in gently, often disguised as comfort, stability, or satisfaction. At first, it feels harmless, restful even. It tells you that things are fine as they are, that there is no need to stretch, question, or seek more than what is directly in front of you. But in truth, complacency dulls the senses. It softens the sharp edge of awareness and lulls the heart into believing that nothing urgent is at stake. It is not the sudden collapse that robs a soul of its purpose, but the slow, unnoticeable drift into a state where the greater realities of life no longer matter. This slow drift is dangerous precisely because it feels safe. We convince ourselves that we are at peace, when in fact we are simply asleep. In such a state, important signs go unnoticed. Opportunities for growth pass us by, and our ability to respond to change becomes weaker. The world may be shifting all around us, but when complacency has its grip, we neither see the change nor feel the need to prepare for it. This blindness is not because the signs are hidden. but because we have trained ourselves not to look. Complacency also thrives in repetition. The routines of daily life, though necessary in many ways, can quietly become chains. When every day looks like the last, we stop asking questions about where the days are leading. The mind becomes accustomed to the predictable, and the heart stops longing for the eternal. This is how complacency steals ambition, not the ambition for status or possessions, but the deeper ambition to live a life of meaning, to be part of something greater than oneself. A person can be surrounded by miracles and still miss them if they are too settled in their own small circle of comfort. Fear plays its role here too. Sometimes we choose complacency because the alternative, stepping into the unknown, is uncomfortable. It is easier to stay where we are than to confront the possibility of change, even if that change is necessary. This is why complacency is not just a lack of action, it is a decision, often unspoken, to protect oneself from the discomfort of growth. In doing so, we forfeit the very experiences that could awaken us to the bigger story unfolding around us. The most alarming effect of complacency is how it affects our moral and spiritual clarity. When we become too accustomed to the patterns of the world, we begin to accept them without question. The small compromises that once would have troubled our conscience no longer feel wrong. We tell ourselves that this is just the way things are. And in doing so, we slowly surrender our convictions. The danger here is subtle but real. Complacency erodes not only our awareness of what is happening around us, but also our ability to respond rightly when it matters most. In history and in personal life, change often comes suddenly. The world can shift in a moment, and those who are unprepared are left scrambling to catch up. Complacency makes preparation impossible because it convinces us there is nothing to prepare for. The storms of life rarely send advance notice, yet complacency persuades us that fair weather will last forever. This is why those who remain watchful, alert, and willing to act are the ones able to stand firm when the unexpected arrives. They have kept their senses sharp, their minds awake, and their hearts ready to move. There is also a deep tragedy in realizing too late that we have slept through the most important moments of our lives. Some awaken suddenly through crisis, loss, or a jarring realization, and see how much time has been lost to small distractions and empty routines. They look back and wonder how they missed the quiet invitations to change that were present all along. The truth is, those invitations were never absent. They were ignored because complacency told them there was always more time. To live without complacency is to live with an awareness that each moment is charged with meaning. It is to treat the present not as something to be endured or passed through, but as part of an unfolding story that requires your participation. It is to refuse the numbing comfort of good enough in favor of the sharper, livelier discomfort of growth. While complacency offers the false security of sameness, awareness offers the true security of readiness. And readiness is only possible for those who are willing to wake up before the moment of decision arrives. History is not a random scattering of events, disconnected and without purpose. It is more like a vast tapestry, woven with deliberate threads, each choice and moment interlacing with the next to create a story far larger than any single life. What appears to us as coincidence or chaos often hides a deeper order, a guiding rhythm that moves quietly through time. Though we often perceive only fragments, our own experiences, the events of our generation, these fragments belong to a greater whole, one that began long before us and will continue long after. This is the stirring of a greater reality, the sense that something eternal is pressing into the present, shaping it in ways we cannot yet fully see. There are moments when this reality feels near enough to touch. It might be in the hush before a great change, when the air feels charged and the heart beats with an unexplainable anticipation, or in the strange clarity that comes when a major event shakes the world, stripping away the illusions that usually keep us distracted. In such moments, we begin to suspect that life is not just about the visible, tangible things we can control, but about something beyond them, something unshaken by the passing of years or the shifting of circumstances. This sense is not the product of imagination. It is the soul recognizing the pulse of eternity beneath the thin surface of time. The truth is that our own lives are being shaped by forces far greater than we realize. Every human being is caught up in a story that spans the rise and fall of nations, the turning of generations, and the unfolding of purposes that stretch beyond a single lifetime. This is why small events can carry such disproportionate weight. A chance meeting changes the course of a family. A private decision alters the fate of many. A single voice spoken at the right time shifts the thinking of a whole community. The greater reality works not only through empires and revolutions, but also through the quiet, unseen actions of ordinary people. This reality is not bound by the limits of our perception. We see time in a straight line, yesterday, today, tomorrow. But the greater reality is not so limited. It weaves past, present, and future together in ways we cannot fully comprehend. What may seem like a delayed answer, a frustrating detour, or an unexplained hardship could be an essential part of a design that will only reveal itself much later. Patience in the face of such mysteries is not easy, but it is essential if we are to live with the understanding that our place in history is intentional, not accidental. Many live unaware of this greater reality because they are preoccupied with the surface of life. They measure meaning by what they can see and touch, forgetting that what is most real is often invisible. This is like judging the strength of a tree by its leaves, while ignoring the roots hidden in the soil. The deeper truth is that the unseen roots determine whether the tree will survive the storms, just as the unseen purposes of the greater reality determine the endurance of lives, communities, and nations. Without awareness of this, we risk mistaking the temporary for the permanent and the urgent for the truly important. There is a peculiar tension in living with this awareness. On one hand, it can make you feel small, knowing that the story is so vast that your own part may seem brief and quiet. On the other hand, it fills life with weight and dignity, because it means your actions, however small, are woven into a design of lasting significance. You are not a spectator, you are a participant. Even the smallest act of courage or kindness ripples outward into the larger story, sometimes in ways you will never fully see. To sense the stirring of this greater reality is to realize that history is not merely unfolding. It is being directed. The moments that seem insignificant may be crucial turns in the plot. The events that feel like disruptions may be carefully placed transitions. And the desires in your heart for something truer, purer, and more lasting may be echoes of that eternal reality calling you to live as though this life is not all there is. Once you begin to live with this awareness, the ordinary no longer feels ordinary. Every step, every choice, and every moment becomes part of something vast and alive, moving steadily toward a conclusion that will make sense of everything that came before. There comes a point in every life when the soul is confronted with a choice to remain asleep in the comfort of familiar illusions or to awaken to a reality that demands more of us than we have yet given. Sleep, in this sense, is not the rest our bodies need, but a state of inward dullness, a refusal or inability to see beyond the surface of life. It is an existence where days pass without reflection, where the heart becomes numb to deeper truths, and where the mind settles into the easy rhythm of, this is enough. Awakening, by contrast, is rarely comfortable. It is like stepping from a darkened room into sudden sunlight. The brightness can sting the eyes, and the sharpness of reality can unsettle everything we thought we knew. This choice between sleep and awakening is not made only once. It presents itself repeatedly in moments both great and small. Sometimes it is prompted by joy, a sudden glimpse of beauty, so pure it reminds you there is more to life than you have been living for. Other times it is born of hardship, loss, disappointment, or injustice that shakes you from the illusion that life is stable and predictable. In either case, the choice is the same: to retreat into the comfort of not knowing, or to step forward into the awareness that there is more at stake than your present ease. Remaining asleep can seem harmless at first. There is a strange security in refusing to think too deeply, in distracting oneself with work, entertainment, or small ambitions. When you are asleep, you do not have to confront the uncomfortable truth that you might be called to change, to risk, or to leave behind things you have long depended on. Sleep shields you from the urgency of time passing, from the moral weight of your choices, and from the unsettling possibility that your life might be meant for something more than self-preservation. But this safety is an illusion, and sooner or later, the cost of it becomes clear. An unawakened life may be easy, but it is also shallow and unprepared for the changes that inevitably come. Awakening, on the other hand, carries both risk and reward. To wake up is to see the world as it truly is, not as we wish it to be. It is to notice the signs that were always there, pointing to a reality greater than the visible one. It is to recognize that every choice has consequences, every moment holds weight, and every life is part of a larger story. This awareness is rarely comfortable because it brings responsibility. Once you have seen the truth, you cannot return to pretending it does not matter. There is also a cost to awakening that cannot be ignored. It may require leaving behind certain habits, ambitions, or relationships that keep you anchored in the shallows. It may mean giving up the false peace of complacency for the unsettling clarity of purpose. It can make you feel out of step with those around you, because while they are content to drift, you are compelled to act, yet despite its cost. Awakening is the only path that leads to a life that is fully alive. It fills ordinary days with meaning, reveals patterns in what once seemed random, and connects even small acts to an eternal significance. The temptation to drift back into sleep is always present. The world offers countless distractions to numb awareness, noise, urgency, pleasure, and endless repetition. But the moments that matter most are the ones when we resist this pull and choose instead to stay awake, to keep our senses sharp, and to live with the full weight of what we know to be true. To be awake is to live in expectation, to watch for the unfolding of the greater story, and to be ready when the moment comes to step into the role you were meant to play. This choice is deeply personal, but it is also universal. Every generation, every individual faces it, and the path taken shapes the course of history, as well as personal destiny. To choose awakening is to step into the flow of that larger reality, to align yourself with a purpose that will outlast the fleeting comforts of the present. And though the way may be demanding, those who awaken discover that what they gain far outweighs what they leave behind. For in waking, they finally begin to live. There are seasons in life when change does not ask for permission. It comes suddenly, like the tide rising around your feet, forcing you to move whether you are ready or not. The events unfolding in the world and in your own life are not random. They are signals that something is shifting, that the time to prepare is not in the future but now. Preparation is not simply about storing resources or making plans. It is about readying the heart, mind, and will for what is to come. This readiness is a choice, and it must be made before the moment of crisis arrives, because when the tide turns, hesitation can cost more than you are willing to pay. The challenge is that human nature prefers delay. We tell ourselves that there will be more time, that tomorrow will be better suited for change than today. We see the signs, but treat them as distant possibilities rather than urgent realities. Yet history and experience tell us that great shifts often arrive without warning. The moment to act is rarely announced in advance, and those who have not prepared find themselves scrambling in confusion. It is not the lack of ability that undoes them, but the lack of readiness. Preparation begins with awareness. It requires seeing the unfolding events not as isolated occurrences, but as part of a larger pattern. This means paying attention not only to the obvious disruptions, but also to the subtle changes in relationships, opportunities, and even the inclinations of your own heart. Sometimes preparation means letting go of things you have long depended on because their season has passed. Other times it means strengthening what is weak, mending what is broken, and building resilience in areas that have been neglected. The wise do not wait until the storm is overhead to repair the roof. They notice the first signs of wear and act while there is still time. The urgency of preparation is also tied to the fact that the future will demand more from you than the present does. Growth is rarely comfortable, and the situations ahead will likely call for courage, endurance, and clarity beyond what you currently possess. Preparing the heart means cultivating conviction so that When the pressure comes, you will stand firm instead of bending with every gust of fear or doubt. Preparing the mind means sharpening your discernment so you can see truth, even when it is obscured by noise and confusion. Preparing the will means practicing the discipline of acting decisively when the moment calls for it. It is important to understand that preparation is not just for the sake of self-preservation. It is also for the sake of others. The readiness of one person can provide stability for many in times of upheaval. A single prepared soul can be a steady hand in the chaos, offering guidance, comfort, and leadership when others are lost. This is why preparation is both personal and communal. It equips you not only to endure, but also to serve. The difficulty lies in the fact that preparation often feels unnecessary until the very moment it becomes essential. It can be hard to invest time and effort into strengthening what has not yet been tested. But the discipline of readiness is built in the quiet days, not in the heat of crisis. Those who wait for visible danger before they act have already lost the most valuable resource, time. The work of preparation is rarely glamorous, but it is the foundation on which endurance and victory are built. When the turning point comes, and it always comes, it will not wait for you to catch your breath. The events set in motion will unfold with their own momentum, and those who are ready will find themselves able to move with purpose, while those who are not will be swept along by forces they cannot control. The call to prepare is, at its core, a call to wakefulness. It is a reminder that life is not static, that seasons shift, and that those who act now, before the urgency is visible, will be the ones who stand steady when the world begins to shake. Preparation is not a task you complete. It is a posture you live in, a readiness to move when the moment arrives, because you have already made the decision to be ready long before it was required. The world around you is not standing still. Beneath the surface of ordinary days, a greater story is being written, a story in which you have been given a role that cannot be replaced. Signs are already present, speaking to those willing to see, warning that complacency is a luxury no one can afford. History is shifting, the unseen reality is stirring, and the choice remains before you, to drift in the comfort of sleep or to awaken to the call of purpose. The time for preparation is not tomorrow, it is now. For when the moment comes, and it will, your readiness will not only determine your path, but may become the anchor for others caught in the same rising tide. Wake up, take your place, and live as though the unseen is more real than what your eyes can see, because the greatest chapter is unfolding even now.